let's now speak to Professor Anja du Plessis, water management expert from Unisa. Prof, a very good afternoon to you. Not too long ago, the Portfolio Committee on Water and Sanitation, in fact, expressed its concern that municipalities' inability to perform their water conservation and their inability to pay for bulk services and infrastructure maintenance are the main factors in Gauteng's water-related challenges that we're seeing now. What are your thoughts on those statements? I mean, in light of our focus being Gauteng, let's perhaps start with the reasons behind, for one, Johannesburg Water's grappling to do emergency maintenance.
Look, we need to remember that we haven't gotten to this point in the last year or 2 years. Unfortunately, the crisis that we are finding ourselves in has been developing over the past 2 decades. So what is currently happening is that we are seeing more and more areas that are struggling with water supply, whether it be water pressure, low flow, or no water at all. And this morning I was actually in a meeting with some of Joburg Water's personnel, and they have admitted that unfortunately, there is a backlog of maintenance, and the only way that we will be able to see progress is if they actually do the maintenance. So we need to give them time. Unfortunately, it's now a thing of damned if you do, damned if you don't. And they've also acknowledged that poor communication, they've acknowledged that, and that they are going to try and improve on that. But once again, the core reasons for the mess that we are sitting with at this point in time is poor planning, poor management, a major backlog in maintenance, and the list goes on. Unfortunately, the demand is outstripping the supply. And this is why we are seeing, that reservoirs aren't recovering as quickly. And then we are also sitting, as the minister has raised, with high non-revenue water, which obviously includes your water leaks, commercial losses, and then illegal connections and vandalism or theft. So those points definitely need to be considered by everyone in Gauteng at this point in time. Rand Water is going to do maintenance over the long weekend. Yes, it's not an ideal plan, it's not an ideal time, but at this point in time, they have to do that. We have requested whether they would be able to postpone it, to schedule it on another day or weekend, and they came back to say that unfortunately, due to governance issues and cost issues, they're not able to do that. So I think that we are in it for a couple of years. Joburg Water, yes, they do have a plan on paper, but we need to start seeing action.
Absolutely. And I mean, we have been asking the question, to what extent are the leaks, are the illegal connections, and now demand outstripping the supply, impacting municipalities' inability to pay for bulk services, also hindering effective water management in the country. But you mentioned governance-related issues, saying that, of course, we might be sitting with this problem for the next 5 years. In as far as governance is concerned, what are then the key, probably major steps that municipalities need to take now and look at now, perhaps with the assistance of national government, in as far as making sure that they have a funding structure in place to do the maintenance that's needed, and also to, do the day-to-day so that residents, especially those that are paying for the service, at least get what they're paying for?
Yeah, exactly. So this issue has been acknowledged at least by the Department of Water and Sanitation. They have involved some experts, of which I'm one, and there has been some increase in terms of engagement, acknowledging it is a challenge. What is the challenge? What do we actually need to change? Yes, we need more investment. We want private sector to get involved. But there has to be some kind of assurance, especially for private sector, that if they do get involved, that their investment or their funding or their work is going where it needs to be. So your question to say what needs to happen in governance, it would be ideal if we could remove politics out of water governance or water management in Gauteng, but unfortunately, that's not one of those things. That's part of life at this point. So what needs to happen is that the DWS is currently coordinating it. They are engaging with Rand Water. They are engaging with municipalities. Municipalities are having meetings with Rand Water and DWS, whether it be on a daily basis or on a Saturday or a Sunday. So the meetings are there. But the engagement is also there, which we acknowledge and which we appreciate. But because we're sitting with such a huge backlog, unfortunately, what we are seeing is a rise in frustration, a rise in anger, because people obviously, their taps are running dry. When they report it, unfortunately, there's no clear communication of why. And all of these issues we have been raising to municipalities to say, you need to be more transparent. Yeah. Communities are requesting for accountability, transparency, and clear information. So I know of many communities that do not trust the water that comes out of the water tankers. So Joburg Water needs to address that, because that obviously exacerbates our water supply problem even more. And politicians have to come to the party at this point. We need to remember that Joburg Water is almost like a department within the city of Johannesburg. So they are a little bit dependent on obviously the city of Joburg as a whole. So I would ask the mayor of city of Johannesburg to actually take this quite seriously and to start speaking with the communities and the people on the ground and actually address the primary issues and also commit to different strategies and investment and so on, so that we can start to involve more private sector as well as other engagements.
And you are correct, Prof, that communication is key, particularly in a crisis situation like this. But as we continue to talk about how municipalities can attract investment, perhaps give us, if any, examples of public-private partnerships in South Africa or even globally that have successfully addressed, water-related issues.
Well, we need to also remember that our water sector has got many intertwining parts. So it's not as simple as to say, okay, we have a reservoir that is leaking, we need to get it fixed as soon as possible. Unfortunately, Joburg Water has to go through all of the stages, and which we acknowledge and which needs to happen, so that we ensure that the money that's given by Treasury, whether it be from grants, international or national, that those funds are used where it needs to be. There are a couple of examples across the globe where the basic services and the service delivery has been handed over to private sector, like a private company, where they then take the water services that needs to be delivered, which then obviously includes your drinking water and sewage. So there are some many examples actually across the globe where some highlight the issue of, they're quite hesitant to give everything over to the public sector, because that will maybe increase the price of water. And, South Africa, we are a poor country overall. We need to acknowledge that. There are many vulnerable and poor people, especially within Johannesburg as well. And I can understand the gentleman's frustration. Water is a basic human right. But what I've seen with what Joburg Water is doing at this point in time is, because theft and vandalism is one of their major issues, they have started to cut illegal connections. I really do hope that Joburg Water engages with this gentleman so that community can actually also get drinking water.
Absolutely, Prof. So many moving parts to this particular story. But thank you so much for your time, Professor Anja du Plessis, water management expert from Unisa.